Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm so excited. I'm MJ Malpiedi from Game Over Books, and I believe you all know why you're here. We are here for the release of Until Tender by Sam Slupski. I could not be more excited for this book to be out and about in the world. You guys were fiending for these poems. I can't even get a copy of this book. You guys were fiending this hard for all of this beautiful collection, okay? And honestly, I'm a little jealous, but it's all right. We love this. This is the type of energy that we want. So we appreciate how much you're loving this book right now, okay? And we can't wait for you to get your hands on it. So we've got a wonderful little show tonight. We have a phenomenal opener. I mean, they truly need no introduction. Devin Devine, the go-to, the GOAT, themselves is here to bring. Honestly, I think you're the perfect person to do this tonight for so many reasons, and I couldn't be more excited for that. And then, of course, we're going to hear from Sam themselves, and they're going to give us some beautiful, beautiful poems and recipes and essays from this incredible collection. And I'm so excited about that. And so, honestly, I want to get right into it. I know why you're here. I don't want to keep running my mouth. So, with that being said, let's get this thing started. And first and foremost, we have none other than Devin Devine. Devin Devine is a nationally touring poet, comedian, and performer living in Portland, Oregon. They studied poetry and theater performance at Gonzaga University. Devin is a former organizer for Spoken Poetry Slam and was a member of Spoken's 2015, 2017, and 2018 National Poetry Slam teams. They laugh and write their way through issues of mental health, sexuality, recovery, and love. Devin is the author of various self-published books, as well as the co-author of self-published crime noir series Kiss the Messenger, a queer kinky Tauros. You can find them snacking and snarfing, likely on a nude beach near you. And they, of course, wrote the incredible book Drinking to Sainthood, which is available at Game Over Books. Oh, is that it? I think that's it right there. I think that's it right there. And actually, let me bring Devin up here, and I'm going to get out of the way.
I'll never get over the full screen thing that happens. I'm an old hand, but that happens. I'm like, oh, I'm Sophia. Hey y'all, I'm really excited to be here. I am a long time friend of Sam's, and I also had the pleasure of being Sam's editor on this collection until Tender. Sam and I's friendship is mostly based around food. So any poem I'm reading tonight, food's going to be a key part of it. So here we go. And yeah, this is from I'm going to read a few from Drinking to Sainthood. Cottage cheese, and this is currently dedicated to the cottage cheese TikTok girlies that are out there. I was drunk on my wedding day. Not like we got married and then I got drunk like most people. No, he and I were at the Park Inn playing pinball and drinking whiskey. Then we remembered he needed a ring, drunk before the pawn shop. I don't think I will get married again because I might not find someone other than him who loves eating cottage cheese. He knew I wanted cottage cheese with spaghetti, cottage cheese with my breakfast, cottage cheese in our bed, cottage cheese on my thighs. Cottage cheese is disgusting to so many people, but so is monogamy. How many shots of whiskey did we need to say I do? How many tubs of cottage cheese did we buy in that apartment? An empty fridge, save for the white wine and chicken strip leftovers, an empty bed in the morning, save for my dimpled ass. I cannot describe what the sun might look like on the day I forget he's dead. I want my love for him to stop. A morning frost come late September. What will snap the neck of the stubborn dandelion if not a drought? It wasn't the lying or his pleading for death. I loved him harder the more he asked me to die. He wanted my permission. I can't believe those months he barely ate, how I watched, knowing my hands were failing gauze. I wonder if I was lactose intolerant, shitting for an entire fucking Sunday, elbows on my knees, crying, and he was outside the bathroom door asking what I wanted for dinner. There was lasagna in the freezer, cottage cheese in the fridge, and I had already said to God that day that loving him may kill me. A block of cheddar as my deathbed, or him hand feeding me brie with wine-soaked fingers, and so I had to leave. I asked my love for him to stop. It's here. Dandelions across the backyard. Yes, my thighs are soft. Even now, he finally died, and I keep buying cottage cheese, wondering why it doesn't taste the same. Yeah, and then this one, this one's about eggs. I don't know. It's good. It's not about eggs, but it's about eggs. The bartender wants to go home. Even the ice cubes are tired of my bullshit, but these are some fancy ice cubes, I tell a friend. We titter, an entire block of ice the size of the glass. They get loud when the whiskey runs out. My drink smells like lavender, but it's rosemary infused. Grandma Judy spends every summer picking lavender. Drunk, or is this memory going home for the night? I want my gin to taste like chicken. Chicken, chicken, dinner, dinner, drunk by dinner time. It is 5 o'clock, cock-a-doodle-doo. The happiest of hours is when the cock crows loudest. I cock my head back for shots. As if I straighten my spine, the shine of me will brighten. I pour tomato juice into my vodka, call it a salad, a food group. You call it by name, 4 a.m. I love brunch. I love it bloody. Marry an alcoholic. It makes the memories less of a home. Nights puking into sinks so all the girls can dance. Never trust a functional adult with a cracked phone screen. All night I dance to the sound of everyone, no one watching. Clucking. Grandma Sheila put Kahlua in her coffee. All of third grade, she drove me to school. I drank coffee on the cold days and I worried it'd stunt my growth. My favorite chaser was a steering wheel. I loved taking my friends home with me. They stopped being friends of mine once they stopped smelling like lavender, when the music was only moaning, or when they tossed out the salad for the plate of chicken. Chicken, chicken, let me cook you dinner. I make dinner for the people I love. I fall in love with the produce section. A bartender pours me another beer without asking for eggs. The bar is full of barn animals. We talk politics and mutiny. Everyone outside is surprised we walk on 2 feet. I turn my pussy into a trough. I love that line. Grandma Judy asked why I have stopped calling my father. Grandma Sheila drinks whiskey when we go to lunch. I have closed the bar more than I have had lunch with my grandmother. There were 3 weeks of dawn that I fucked a bartender. My father was not wrong when he said we are allergic to gin. People pretend to like drinking green chartreuse. I am the loudest in the bar. You tell me so. The bartender wants to go home. And then I have one last poem, and I really wanted to share this poem because my friendship with Sam has done so much for my own gender expression and gender journey. Earlier, someone was like, I love the days. Like, I love the days. I have struggled frequently with like feeling affirmed in my gender expression. And Sam, that is a huge part of the work that you do. And I think it is reflected back by all the days in the room. So this is about getting misgendered by my mom. When in Rome. Men spend the first half of their life ruining their health and the second half trying to fix it. Leonardo da Vinci. During the guided tour of the Colosseum, I must have cried. My mother's favorite movie. Oh, this is just like mom suck poem. Sorry. My mother's favorite movie was my entire childhood. My entire childhood was Gladiator, starring Russell Crowe. Here we were, standing in the bowels of it. We made it through so much to be here. Sure, it is expected to think of how many people have died when you're standing somewhere older than Christ. Our tour guide speaks of the communal toilets and the gladiators and the lions and alligators who ate soldiers as if they were tap dancing across a blood-covered stage. So quickly, everyone takes pictures on their phones. I packed a Polaroid camera. My mother has joined me in Italy. It's cheaper if mom buys the hotel rooms, right? I wasn't broke, I'm just cheap. She taught me how. The expense is far greater when we are arguing at the dinner table, my mouth full of bitter tiramisu, the first bad tiramisu I ate the whole trip, and easily the worst bite of food the entire 3 weeks. She is drunk. A mother drunk is a thing that may or may not ever change. I love my mother and forgive her often before I know what to forgive her for. I want her to see me. Every scene I could describe here is still in Italy, so it is all entirely too cinematic. Tuscan hills and sky, bowls of olives, and short old men with flat caps. Unfortunately, I am the adult child of a mother who doesn't like poems about her. I desperately want her to stop calling me daughter. I have a Gilmore Girls tattoo and am no longer the same girl who named the hurt of a mother. It is not hands, it is disappointment. Our tour guide slips in and out of Italian, La Sufferenza, the suffering. When we got our first DVD player, she played gladiator fight scenes in slow motion. This is not the bloodiest scene, though. A poet can't write about blood without trying to clean their hands. My mother survived a gauntlet. I've been known to say, my mother, I love her. I just don't look at the history of it. She silently pushes pasta around the plate soaked with wine as I was once taught to be. And I watched my mother, and I am the mother, and she is the child. And I love her for the petulance. I love that we are in Italy as the facade crumbles. Veni, vidi, vici. I love myself and gladly eat every bite off my plate and hers. Thanks, y'all.
Oh my God. Yes, chef. Thank you so much. Holy shit. Did I not say that was the perfect opening? Honestly, God, Devin Devine, please. All of the love right now in the chat. Incredible. Truly. And that was, thank you, Devin. You know you're the best. All right, but for now I gotta let you go. But with that being said, we're here for the main event. We're here for the main course. All right. But before I introduce them, we're gonna do a little Q&A, okay? After the reading. So I have some curated questions already, but I want to hear from you all. So during the reading, if there's anything you want to ask the author after, put it in the chat. I'd love to get to it tonight. So just keep that in mind. And with that, let's just get right into it. Sam Slupski, they, them, is a queer, non-binary writer and creator from the Midwest. They are passionate about redefining conversations about wellness to make them accessible and inclusive, destigmatizing mental health and sexual health through transformative practices, and supporting communities rooted in collective care and mutuality. They are a freelance writer and contract social media manager, a part of the communications team at the St. Louis Queer Plus Support Helpline, focusing on consciousness raising, community outreach, and skill building, and are the former wellness editor for Swift Wellness. They write a bi-weekly newsletter called Healing Field Notes and have an Instagram community of over 29,000 people, engaging with storytelling about mental health, personal style, and homemaking. Sam has written about a variety of vulnerable topics, including their experiences with vaginismus and intimacy, queerness, gender and style, mental health and emotional healing, chronic illness and disability justice, and more. They were a finalist in the 2019 Button Poetry Chapbook Contest, headlined the Melbourne Spoken Word Poetry Festival in 2018, and have toured across the US and Canada. They love to cook and wholeheartedly believe a Midwest sunset is superior to all sunsets. Their book of poetry, essays, and recipes, Until Tender, is not available for pre-order because it's out. It is out today, everybody. So without further ado, let's get ready. Here we go. I'm just gonna get my silly face out of the way. Hold on here.
We're here. Wow, thank you so much, MJ. I Oh my gosh, I am just so excited to be here, and I am just like so grateful to Game Over Books and to Josh and to Devin and just everybody who really helped bring this book to life. I have like had a crush on Game Over Books for so long and have submitted to them many times, and when I finally got a yes, I was like, is this real? Is this happening? I don't believe this is happening. And then it happened and we're here. And I'm just very, very excited. And so I'm going to read a few poems from my book. And yeah, I'm just feeling really, really excited. And Devin, those poems were perfect. As someone who is trying to heal my relationship with cottage cheese, I really needed to hear that poem. So okay, I'm gonna read a few poems. I haven't read poems out loud in like quite a long time, and so this is gonna be an experience for all of us. Okay. I once heard that your debut poetry collection is just kind of like introducing the world to who you are, and I feel like this is really what my book is. But also there's a few poems that I want to read that just kind of tell you about who I am. So this poem is called I Am From, after George Lyon. I'm from pills and pocket knives, Klonopin and switchblade. I'm from an unkempt apartment, cluttered, dim, and stained yellow with cigarette smoke. I am from golden pathos because it can survive in the lowest light. I am from camping in the summer and mental health disorder. I am from don't talk about the hard things and make a joke at the wrong time, from you are too much and you are not enough. I am from crying at church camp, manipulated into an emotional breakdown and call it saving. I am from Olathe, Kansas and Pasadena, Texas, hamburger helper and rice-a-roni, sitting in the back seat while we took my father to the mental hospital, the bench my grandmother sat on when she decided to have an abortion. I am from the photo albums tucked away in a closet, pictures of our smiles, frozen, almost if we are from what we used to be. Cool. It's so weird reading to not applause and like not snaps. There, I see a snap. I love a snap. Cool. Okay, I'm like really nervous for some reason. This is so wild, but I'm really excited. This poem is called Memory Collector. If you dig in my basement, you can find boxes full of concert tickets, movie stubs, and baby photos collecting dust like a fossil of memory. All clutter people think to throw away, I keep. Growing up, after I ate a snack, I would hang up the wrapper on my wall and call it a collection, call it a collage. Before I moved from my hometown, I dug up all the fossils and put them neatly in a photo album. You know the ones. Sticky page, plastic wrapping a moment into place, but like memories often do, they ended up in another box, put in another dark place, and I forget again for a while, until I want to remember. How sad my parents must be. They have no proof I was a happy child. All of the photos of laughter belong to me. I am a collector of memories. Sometimes the ones in the dark are the ones I wished I remembered more often. I wish in place of the flashbacks, there were only the photos of me in pink gingham shorts in my grandfather's garden at age 3. The snack wrappers were evidence I was full once. That is what fossils are meant to be. Proof there was something once here, breathing. Eee, cool. It's like a full moon tomorrow and I'm like really feeling it. And I watched like a handful of TikToks about like Pisces things. And what you need to know about me is that co-star bullies me often. And this poem is called Co-Star Bullied Me Again. I was born a Pisces. My sign suggests I am emotional and sensitive, and my sign is correct. My horoscope says my capacity for tenderness is considerable, and I want to consider tenderness, but this body is often a callous thing, cannot hold bodies inside my own body. And most days, I don't want to listen to my horoscope. I don't want to listen when it says I live on a chaotic plane, or I have a strong intuition for hidden emotional currents, or when I take offense. It is deeply, and I am deeply offended because it is often too accurate, often feels too much to exist as me. What I mean is my horoscope tells me all the things I don't want to hear about myself. Oh my God, where am I? My horoscope says I need to deepen my compassion for the messy structure of humans. I think it means I need to practice compassion for the messiness of myself. Being a Pisces means I look a lot like pieces. Or this body has an unusual capacity for feeling. I notice this for the first time when a man at a bar asks me what my star sign is. I tell him I am a Pisces, and he says, never mind. All of this sensitivity is too much for him. He doesn't know how to be around all this tender, and I don't blame him. I am often too much for myself. And I never needed a star sign to tell me I'm the kind of person to keep a running list of all the reasons I cried each month, including the intensity of the tears on a scale of 1 to 5, but it's nice to have something to blame it on. So when my sad is all out in the open, I can just blame it on the way my body was placed under the sun and the stars. Fuck co-star, honestly. Yeah, I love that poem. I wrote that poem a long time ago, and it's a classic. This poem is called Bare Minimum. On the days fatigue and palpitations take my body away from me, I try to at least put vegetables on a pan at 350 for 20 minutes or until tender. On the days I cannot be anything but horizontal, I try to at least add water and couscous to a pot, garbanzos for protein if I'm feeling especially confident. My pain is at a 10, which means it was actually at a 10 a few days ago. I once heard someone say to break up what you feel is unsurvivable into 10-second increments because you can likely survive anything for 10 seconds. I am taking it one knife chop at a time. If I can survive the amount of time it takes to break a broccoli crown into green crumb confetti, surely I can make the whole meal and eat it. Some may say it's not much, nothing too fancy, but I see an opportunity for a fresh herb on top, which is fancy to me. I clench the salt, lemon pepper, and garlic powder in my fists, showering the seasoning into a pool of olive oil, toss and cook for 20 minutes. Another 1,200 seconds here. Another bite. Yeah, this book is largely, it's a lot of things. This book is about my mom, it's about gender, it's about love, it's about cooking, but really it's like how I used cooking to like crawl myself out of like wanting to die. It's like the most honest way I could put it. Yeah, I love to cook, and cooking is how I learned how to take care of myself. It was the entryway to healing for me. It was the thing that you know, outside of poetry, really cooking was the thing that just that continues to save my life over and over again. And yeah, this is there's a lot of poems about food that I'm going to read. So this poem is called Simmer. If you overcook meat, even the kind that comes from the most tender muscle, it can be turned tough and chewy. My mother cooked and fed me fibers that left me wishing for succulence. She has tried to make up for the time her boyfriend fed me raw chicken that left me ill for days. I am sick with anger, and my therapist tells me this is a secondary symptom to something buried underneath. I stretch and hear my bones crack with memory. I cook myself cauliflower to remember how to care for something soft, reflect the meal back at me, and see there is room to nourish, room to comfort all this bruised cartilage. My mother hasn't cooked a meal for me in years. I stay away from the table she tries to set for me. I've shown up to a thoughtless plate too many times, and I am done left being starved. I am done feeding on disappointment, so my therapist gives me coping mechanisms to chew on while I simmer all this grief down to something I can eat. Yee. Poems. Yeah. This poem is for all of my chronically ill besties, and for, you know, just anyone who has ever been called a killjoy or dramatic or faking it or any of the things that people call chronically ill people. I love you, and we're doing great. If you talk about it too much, you're a killjoy. If you don't talk about it enough, you're faking it. The blood work comes back normal again. They say I am so lucky to be able to stay home all the time, but I dare you to try fatigue on, dress up in chest pain and do a full face of palpitations and tell me you won't want to change immediately. I am now the mayor of Bummertown, appointed by all of my friends who've had to hear about the time my heart almost stopped. I don't mean to talk about it so much, but I do. Do you want to test drive a body that could crash into itself at a moment's notice? If you Google it, you're overreacting. When you call the doctor to ask, is this normal? They say you should go to the hospital. You think to yourself, but this isn't as bad as last time, but last time was too close of a call, so you go. Again. I dare you to Google shower chair and find something that fits with your interior design style. In this liminal space, not quite healthy, but not always sick, always on the threshold, a body's glitch, a hectic day, the opposite of ease comes to say hello. Thanks. Yeah, I love y'all. Cool. I have some poems about vegetables in here, and this one is called Celery. An aromatic I could consider wearing as perfume. Broth and time's confidant, a controversial crisp thing turned adorned when simmered into something soft, or topped with peanut butter and sun-stricken grapes. Mirepoix and the Holy Trinity require you, as do I. Each soup incomplete if you are absent. You are stringy when snapped, my favorite thing to slice. This essay is called A Sharp Knife Bites the Surface, which was the original title of this book. And then I woke up in like a dream and was like, until tender, vegetables, cook until tender. That's the title of the book. But this used to be called A Sharp Knife Bites the Surface, which is the title of this essay. Okay. When I go to open a package I get in the mail, I use a switchblade my father gifted me for Christmas one year. When I was a kid, my dad used to line his pocket knife collection on our coffee table, some exhibit at the time I could only name as potential violence. Now one lives in my home as a gift, as a tool, and I am relearning that maybe this gift was not a violence, but rather a way of his sharing his collection with me. I am reading a book on difficult fruit. The author, Kate Lebo, contemplates each fruit, discusses her relationship to it and how it weaves itself into her life throughout different recipes. In the introduction, she writes, fruit is not the smooth-skinned, bright-hued, waxed, and edible ovary of the grocery store. Here, fruit is difficult. Here, my relationship with my father is difficult. It is not one of protection or playfulness. I have grieved everything he was and everything he could not be over and over again. I've learned the language of forgiveness through his voicemails. Each one a reminder a boundary is a boundary regardless if it's understood. Knives weave themselves into my life every day, and when I opened the Christmas switchblade, I didn't realize it was a switchblade at first. I almost opened the blade right into the palm of my hand. The author writes that she loves picking dandelions despite their reputations as weeds. She writes of enjoying the sound and the feel of how they release from the earth. She writes of her depression, the way the dandelions were brought to her over to America for medicinal purposes, and how, while dandelions are not recommended for the treatment of depression, there is evidence gardening makes us happier. She writes, I am not opposed to eating weeds, but that's not why I go to the backyard on my hands and knees. I want the act of extracting them, the tug and the release within me. My rotten brain, dirt falling away perfectly when the dandelion is young and the earth is wet, so it feels like a popping bubble, or like the long straight cut of a knife in rhubarb, a perfect motion. My knife skills are at their best when matched with a celery stalk. I am teaching little me to cook with each chop and motion. I do it all for her, evidence that we are happy. I teach her broccoli and asparagus are a favorite to roast. Caramelizing onions is therapy. Black pepper goes good in almost anything, and Old Bay is heaven in a tin container. But what I love most is the feeling of the blade cutting through celery with each crisp slice, an orchestra of sustenance, and I am the conductor. I've feared knives my whole life. My father has a 3-degree black belt in martial arts. When I was 4, my father tried to enroll me in karate classes to share his love with me. I made it to 2 classes because on the second day, they brought out a fake knife to teach a lesson about self-defense. I ran out of the room crying and never went back. It's taken me years to realize my father is a gentle person. Despite a knife's reputation as a weapon and a 3rd-degree black belt, what he loves comes from a place of safety, wanting to be safe and keep others safe. Later in the book, the author writes, I am clearing the grass of weeds so there can be more grass or new weeds, or until something within me clears too. While my knife skills aren't exactly top tier, they get the job done. With each slice, chop, or dice, I am relearning safety, clearing space for all the ways there are to take care of myself. I feel the fear of blades clear within me too. I am learning a language my father tried to teach me. Maybe these are not blades of violence, but rather a tool to open or to make things into bite-sized pieces, a tool to keep myself safe in case of danger. Last week, I drank a cup of dandelion root tea and my father called. This time, I didn't let it go to voicemail because I am trying to let the conversation with him be neutral at best. He asked me how I was feeling because we both are taking the same medication that makes us feel like shit. He asked me if I'd been collecting anything lately. He asked me if I had anything good to eat. I told him about my love for soup, how I adorned shelves in my living room with mugs with different soup recipes on them. He asked if the knives in my house were sharp since I cook so much. I told him they weren't. He said, "You better sharpen them. They are much more likely to hurt you when they are dull. You wouldn't want to cut yourself." Ooh, yeah, we did it. We're reading. Cool. This poem is called Patron Saint of Cooking Vegetables for My Friends. I've been called patron saint of cooking vegetables for my friends and have happily escorted them to the nourishment they need. But YouTube and Google have been the best parents to me. I did not inherit a how-to handbook or a recipe box. The kid that lives inside of me is cold and hungry. My kin does not check up on me. I'm grateful for the kith I call mine. I'm grateful I have friends that want to take cooking lessons from me, but now I'm grieving that the only hearth I know is the one I have built for myself. Excuse me. I paint my entryway fireplace glow, a reminder I created the warmth that is here. I have had to be both mother and daughter, both tough and tender, fought tooth and nail for myself because there was no one else who would. They say that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger, or that which doesn't kill you turns your name into a synonym for resilience, but I do not want to be resilient. I want to be taken care of. I had to learn what care looks like. And most days, I want to share the gift that is learning how to love yourself when no one else did properly. Most days, I pass down these gifts like an heirloom, but now I make myself a meal and grieve. Cool. Okay. Oh, my foot's asleep because I'm crossing my legs. Cool. All right. We're going to lighten it up a little bit for all of my emo kids in the house, or elder emos, as I like to call myself. And so this is called To Emo and Pop Punk Early 2000s. I hear the pizzicato intro every time I see a hair straightener, the soundtrack to my middle school breakdowns and box-dyed black hair. Brendan Urie, my personal cheerleader to my flat and fried hair. I hear the infamous Black Parade piano every time I put on eyeliner. It's been years since I've caked it on the way I did back then, but I hear the encouragement from Gerard in the distance telling me more, and Pete Wentz joins the eyeliner choir too. I get interrupted by Haley Williams and her riot. I am in the business of misery because I'm 16 and angsty. My heart swoons at all the boys singing about how they like girls. I want to be named Maria or Kelsey, but my heart follows the beat of Travis Barker and all of the small things that feel so big because I am a teen girl and all of this music amplifies how emotional I am. This teen heart is fickle and falls in and out of love with everyone. When I hear the music, it's like I am hearing them say, yes, 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 we are the kings of your big and fragile heart. And it's true. I fell in love with all of them. But now, when I feel the weight of all of my sins and tragedies, and I get in the car, roll down the windows, say a prayer to the teenage girl that was, and blast the music. Yeah. Pop punk. I'm going to take a water break. Highly recommend that you do so as well. Stay hydrated. This poem is about onions, which I love. I loved it so much I got one tattooed on me. A base coat to my colorful dishes, the most necessary in the Holy Trinity, often thought of as second to garlic. The Maillard reaction's best friend, sweet and supple, you adorn everything you touch with zing and bite. It doesn't matter the color, red, yellow, or white, although I prefer Vidalia for its high sugar content. Caramelization champion, I have chopped you and felt the invitation to actually feel my feelings. You encourage the tears I've been holding back for days. Olive oil sings to the kiss of you, a symphony of the fullness to come. You turn soft with warmth and time. Yeah. How am I doing on time? Am I doing okay? I feel like I only have a couple left. Cool. Where am I at? Amazing. Doing amazing on times. Whenever I read, sometimes I black out. I'm just like, I don't know where I'm at. Cool. Let's see. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna read another essay. I just, read an ode to pop punk music, so this is an ode to pop music. Growing up, my parents didn't talk about joy. They didn't share the things that made them light up. I don't remember my mother smiling much. My grandmother didn't talk about the beauties of the world despite how many countries she had traveled to. My lineage holds on to trauma like precious heirlooms. Every story is about some trauma, wound, bad mistake, or something that went wrong that could have gone better. The alleyway attack, the abortion, electroshock therapy at Osawatomie State Hospital, the kidnapping, or all the times I was almost adopted by a distant family member. On Thanksgiving, my friends and I went around the table to share what piece of culture turned the light bulb on for us, when in our lives we decided we liked what we liked. I grew up listening to classic rock. We had a coffee table book that captured the life of the lead singer of The Doors, Jim Morrison. I wake up in the morning to hear my dad singing Break On Through to the Other Side, and my first physical vinyl was a Joy Division record bought from Half Price Books. I joke about how I love sad bitch music, but the truth is I've been surrounded by aching people my whole life. My dad always said he enjoyed listening to The Doors because it made him feel less alone in the darkness. I understand. It's why I listen to Frightened Rabbit or Julian Baker when I'm sad. It's why I fell in love with Bright Eyes and screamed into these twisted months I plunge without a light to follow, but I swear I would follow anything if it would just get me out of here, along with Connor Oberst during an unforgiving February. My best friends love pop music. When Bud is having a hard day, they praise at the church of Carly Rae Jepsen. When Nick is thrashing against the waves of their brain, they listen to Ally and AJ. It is because of them I learned about the works of art that are Ariana Grande music videos and became a Swiftie. A couple weeks ago, I was over at Nick and Bud's and an upbeat playlist was in the background and I was singing along to Carly and Nick said, I love how much you love pop music when you really let yourself. When I say they are right, I mean, I don't let myself sit in the joy of things for long. When I was getting ready to leave Austin, I planned a playlist full of my saddest tunes. I had Death Cab for Cutie queued up, ready to have a good cry, but then asked myself, why am I like this? Sure, there is a lot to grieve. Sure, there are things I'm sad about and I'm angry how the pandemic stole dance parties from me and how many whiskey sours at Nickel City I could have enjoyed had it not been for the last 2 years. But what if I honored the grief by sitting in the other side of that emotion? I'm lucky I've been alive for as long as I have. I'm lucky I've learned about joy despite my inheritance being painful memories. Don't get me wrong. There is a place and time for Phoebe Bridgers, and I will listen to Evermore and cry along with Taylor Swift. I'm not saying I don't want to let myself sit in the sadness because we do have to feel our feelings. What I'm saying is I deserve joy. I choose to let myself love pop music. I choose to let myself love. My smile is the heirloom I will pass down. Eee. And I do love pop music. It's like all I can listen to now. I literally listen to if I put on Bright Eyes or Frightened Rabbit, I'm like, no, I need to listen to Taylor Swift instead. Cool. Okay. I'm gonna read two more. Yeah. I didn't think I was gonna read the essays, but I'm reading essays. I kind of like it. This is called Let It Grow. Painting my nails is one of my favorite self-care activities. I love the gentle act of doing something small for the beauty of it. I adore picking out a color, an aesthetic backdrop to everything my hands do. Chopping vegetables for my evening soup, the tousle of my partner's hair in the morning, and tapping my keyboard as I write. I find joy in the precision of filing my nails down to their perfect shape. I like them almond or round. I look forward to the relief of clipping my nails with the dull clippers in my bathroom drawer when I can no longer stand the length. A constant reminder we can start over at any time. When my nails get long enough, they start to curl under themselves. This is when I start to reach for the clippers because it is in that curling I see my mother. My mom would let her nails grow past this point, and I wondered why she'd let them get to this length. She never painted them and rarely adorned her fingers with anything other than whatever wedding ring my father had bought her that year. When my nails start to curl, I cannot stand to look at my hands and see her. When I hold myself, I don't want to be reminded of all the ways I've had to unlearn wound. When my nails get too long, this is also when I feel my most feminine. I hold on to my she pronoun because it feels like I am holding on to the little girl in me. My inner child wants to be held with trimmed and painted nails. She wants to reach for the clippers when they needs to shine. The length of my nails is not the deciding factor of my gender, but when I clip my nails, I feel the daughter of myself healing. I can feel the parts of myself that yearned for the gentleness of my mother's hands. My nails are long, and I enjoy the feeling of them clacking against the keys as I type. I was going to clip them yesterday, but when I was unloading the dishwasher, I accidentally stabbed myself with a fork right under my thumbnail, and am relying on the shield of the nail to keep the wound from being completely exposed. Maybe this is my body's way of saying I need to learn to hold on to the discomfort of being reminded I am my mother's daughter for a few days as this heals. I will adorn my nails with dark green nail polish. I enjoy the way green pairs with the gold jewelry I've collected. It reminds me of the plants I have taken care of and curating, a sign that I can keep what is fragile alive. Maybe my nails are a reminder I carry with me too. Maybe they are a reminder I can keep a delicate thing growing. My partner likes when I keep my nails long. His favorite feeling is a gentle scratch on his back in the morning, and I can tell that when I trim my nails, he looks forward to the growth that comes after. I want to look at my hands and see this kind of care. I want to look at my hands and unlearn my mother's name. I want to look at my hands and see how I have learned to take care of myself, despite all the things I have inherited. Whew. Yeah. Cool. I have one more. Again, this has been like an out of body experience. I have been holding on to this book for so long. And it feels really, really, really lovely to share it with people. And I feel just so grateful for all of you for being here. And just, yeah, this is just so, so special. And there's something great about a book when it comes out. It doesn't feel like just mine anymore. It just like feels like ours. And we just are all like, I don't know, it feels really special. This last poem, Devin insisted, was the last poem in the book. And I, again, cannot thank Devin enough for being just such an incredible editor and for just seeing me and for being my opener tonight. I'm so, so grateful. And I love you. My big bowl of garlic, my big Papa pickle. I love you so much. I have this thing where I like accumulate tier debt and then I like pay it off all at once. And that will probably happen later. But anyway, this poem is called Good Enough. I do not have any good memories from my childhood. I watched joy belly down below a guillotine blade. There was no saving it. I know my parents did the best they could. Their best was not good enough. When I say I feel like I'm doing the best I can, I'm scared that I am following in my parents' footsteps. Doing my best is still not good enough. Doing my best means I am breathing, and some days that has to be good enough. When I think about my childhood, I think of all the times I could never ask for what I needed. I needed my mom to teach me how to cook, but she never did, which is to say, what I know of nurture did not come from my mother, but came from me, came from what I've had to make myself. Still, she was doing the best she could. I know doing the best I can means I try to cook myself dinner every night, but sometimes I get takeout instead. I try not to look at this as a failure, but rather a treat, a break, a moment to break bread without the burden of doing the dishes afterward. This is not only good enough, it is just good. That's all of my poems.
Oh my goodness. Incredible. You did it. You did the reading. I love it. The chat loves it. Oh my God. How could you not? It's such an incredible collection. And this was such a beautiful reading, Sam. Thank you so much for that. I couldn't thank you enough, honestly. So I guess I'm going to ask you some of my questions here, and I don't know if anyone else out there wants to ask anything of our author this evening, but if you do, please go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'd love to get to it. But first, I want to talk a little bit about why you chose to go about the collection the way that you did in terms of doing a hybrid collection of poems and recipes and essays when you could have maybe done something like a traditional memoir or whatever. And I'm curious for you, what was it about taking this hybrid approach that allowed you to more authentically tell this story, to like give the recipe of you know what I mean?
Ah, wow. I love that question. Yeah, I mean, this book originally, started out as just poems. And I, you know, was brought up in the slam world, like just poems were just like the genre. And then kind of after, the pandemic started and slam started to, shut down, obviously. I really started to explore my voice outside of poetry and really fell in love with personal essays. And also really just fell in love with recipes and the stories that those can tell. And I had realized that there were just things that I wanted to say that could not be held within the container of poetry. There was just more nuance or more just breadth of a subject that I wanted to explore in an essay. And once I was putting this collection together, I realized like, oh, some of the maybe what's the word I'm looking for? Some of the missing pieces were just puzzle pieces I wanted to put together with essays or recipes, and it was Devin's idea to put recipes at the end, which I'm again forever grateful for, because it's true, like I do feel like that rounds out the book in a way that like I hope that people take this book, read it, and then get to the recipes and are like, oh, like I'm gonna go take care of myself in this way. And I think, yeah, truly, Devin is the editing goat. Please hire them for all your editing needs. But it's, yeah, so I don't know. That's it. Just to me, I love a hybrid collection. I just think that like playing with genre and playing with all of the ways that there are to tell a story is just really fun to me. And also too, like I have been just playing with like personal essays more, especially in my newsletter. And I do find that nowadays I feel much more comfortable in essays. And so that was like some tension that I felt whenever I was like writing and really editing this book, was that like so many of these poems I wrote so long ago. And the essays were more, recent works. And so trying to like marry those two together both felt like in some ways difficult, but also was like, oh, I've been like exploring these topics for so long, and like these have been just through lines. And so I think those essays like really helped push the narrative a little bit further. So yeah.
No, that's wonderful. And actually kind of going off of this a little bit, because I also think that like it's a much more open way to tell this story than like say your structured like prose of a memoir. And I'm curious too, like you do so much work and you're so open and vulnerable and transparent as a person, like with your content creation, with your social work. And so I'm curious how that has now played into your your writing, your poetry. Like how has that type of stuff, how has that type of writing come into your creative work?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways I've just always been that way. Like I just have always been open and vulnerable in my work, and like I just don't know any other way to be. And like with this like especially with like this book specifically, like I took a lot of writing workshops during the pandemic, and there were just a lot of conversations about like stakes and like how to up the stakes in our writing in like a safe way, because I feel like I often, like especially my earlier writing, was like, always kind of like scratching the surface, and I was like, okay, I am like telling the truth, but I'm like telling half the truth, or I am like not getting to the like meat of this like idea. And it just that's like another thing with like essays, is just it helps me get to like the meat a little bit more. But I think like even now, like again, some tension that I'm feeling with this collection is that like there are poems in this book and like essays in this book that I would write differently now, that I would say differently in a lot of ways, or would love to like expand on in a memoir later. You know, that's like something that I'm always kind of thinking about, is like a collection. This collection is so much just like a living, breathing thing within me, which I think is why I feel so tender about it. Is like, this is not like this book doesn't just stop like here. And I'm just like excited to like be go like even deeper and like up the stakes in that way. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. I feel like I like went on a bit, but
No, I think that's a wonderful answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then to build off that a little bit, so I'm curious, you know, a lot of this collection is about raising yourself, co-parenting, doing certain things to figure out what works for you for, you know, self-care and your own development. So I'm curious, how has that over time influenced your writing practices and rituals? How has that kind of come to help you enhance and better understand how to, you know, go into the work?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for as long as I can remember, writing has been like, writing was the first thing that I ever found to like make sense of the world around me and like rewrite um like the understanding of my reality in a lot of ways, like especially with um you know, with a lot of the work, you know, I like you said, I talk about like having to raise myself and just having neglectful parents and a lot of those things. And I had to like write what I knew was true about my life. And because that was a lot about you know, just to get vulnerable and real here, is like so much of my parents' understanding of what was happening was not reflected back at me. There was a lot of gaslighting of like, oh no, it wasn't like that. You didn't, it wasn't that bad. Like, you know, all the things that, you know, parents love to do.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and so like this writing, you know, writing my really early writing, and even this book is just like putting my history down. And that is something that I think like all of us should do. Is like being a writer is just like about writing our histories. And like especially like I'm an only child, and so like I had nobody there to like corroborate with me. Like this is
Right.
just like me having like my understanding of my world around me put on paper. And like it's usually not until I write something that I like understand it deeper, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm always just kind of um if I'm curious about a feeling or an experience or a memory, I go to write about it. And then like usually by the end of the poem, I'm like, oh, okay, I understand this now, or I understand this differently now. Or it invites another window for me to like look into something deeper and look about something differently. Because there have been multiple poems that I've written where I'm like, this is correct. And also I think I need to write deeper into this.
Yeah.
And so I think that, yeah, I think that that's just kind of how writing has always been to me. It's both a way to be like present in my life. I love to write about what's currently happening around me. But I have so many memories that are fragmented, which is what trauma does to memory, as we all have learned. The body keeps the score, as they say. And so, you know, writing has really, the writing keeps the score is the truth. Like it's just, it has helped me just like corroborate with myself and be like, yes, this is my experience, and this is what I this is like the history of who I am. And that is like beautiful thing that I've come to like learn, like I've just come to learn about myself through my own writing. And so and like reading other people's writing, and then just like then we're all just learning about each other, and we have all of these like different stories that we get to share, and then it's like, oh, like writing helps us understand each other more, and that's like
Yeah.
what I love about it the most.
It helps us, like, yeah, it helps us honor these experiences in the most authentic way possible. I think you said that perfectly.
Yeah.
So, and again, anyone in the chat, don't be shy if you have anything that you want to ask. So, okay. With that, I'm always curious about, and you kind of touched upon it a little bit, but I'm always curious about like the ordering, the editing process. And then with this one in particular, it's like, you and Devin did such a beautiful job of like creating this arc in terms of how all of the poems and essays really build up into those recipes, right? You see so much of these like inflected in the actual work, which just, again, for me, it just gives it like so much more authenticity into like what you're trying to get across here, right? So what was that process like for you? How did that feel to go about like collecting your ingredients here and kind of like really, putting it all together, right?
Yeah, I will be honest with you. One of the things I have struggled always with my writing is like a narrative arc. I feel like that is something that doesn't come super naturally to me. And so to hear you say that is so kind, because and again, I will say a large part of that again is because of my amazing editor. But yeah, I mean, I knew that the story I wanted to tell was like, I was here and then I got here, and then like having to kind of figure out what journey I was hoping to take people on through that, because like a lot of my work and just poetry in general and vulnerable work in general can be pretty heavy. And so something I really wanted to do was like, in some ways, like I thought about it as like eating a really spicy dish, like you're eating and it's like kind of miserable, but also you sort of love it because you love spicy food, but then like you get a break in the spiciness, and then like it's, that's like my song about like pop punk. I'm like, okay, this is like a break from the spicy food of trauma, and now we like get to breathe for a second, and then oh, here's a devastating essay about my mother, like I think that is like so important in a collection. Like I really want to like offer moments of reprieve in a narrative, but while also honoring that like it was also really difficult, and was something that I like went through. And so I guess that's the best way I can describe it. But yeah, I mean, I just knew that like what I wanted people to walk away with was like, well, a lot of things, I guess, but like really ending on this like, we are capable of like nourishing ourselves. We like can go through all of this and celebrate, like not in like a dismissive, like, oh, I'm so grateful I went through all this trauma so that I can be how I am now. Like, no, like not that type of toxic stuff, but like this is like this is where I come from. And that origin story is important. It's not something to dismiss, because that is, I think, something that I think about a lot is like, there are so many origin stories like that in our country and in our daily lives and everything that we dismiss. And when we dismiss those origin stories, like, I think that we do ourselves and our communities a disservice. And so really thinking about, okay, what is the origin? And then how did we get to how we are, like where we are now? It's just like something I'm always interested in like both my writing and the things I read. So yeah, that's my answer.
No, I love it. That's perfect. Well, I feel you kind of just answered this other question I was gonna tee up for you, which is, and I asked this of pretty much all the authors, but because once your book gets out there, people are gonna read it, people are gonna take whatever they want from it, their own perspective and everything like that, from their own lens. And I'm always curious, like, what is the one thing or few things that you truly hope that people like get, that they actually like take away from the book? Like what do you want to land?
Yeah. interesting question. I mean, I think sorry, my bird clock is currently going off, which I have a clock that has a new bird call every hour, so that was distracting. It's always the bird clock. What do I want people to take with them? I think largely I want people to feel empowered to ask for the care that they need, or that they want, and find the people in their lives that make them feel safe enough to do so. Because so much of this book and so much of like the food that I write about, and like this is something that feels like the living, breathing part of this that I didn't really get to explore as much in this book as I had hoped, is like so much of this like happened in community, and like meals happen in community, and also like there is something very cathartic and wonderful about just like cooking a meal for yourself and sitting with that like nourishment and being like, I did this for myself. I made this for me. I am capable of making myself feel safe. So like, I think that is something that I hope that people can walk away with, is just like a reminder that like they can keep themselves safe. Again, the other part of that is like also community is such an important part of that. But I think I really needed to prove to myself for a really long time that I was capable of keeping myself safe and capable of keeping myself nourished, especially because I didn't learn to cook until I was in my mid-20s. Like I didn't know how to cook anything. No one taught me. And when I finally learned, I was like, wow, like I taught myself this. I can do this for myself. And so I hope people walk away with, at least some happy, like, or some, just like some understanding of the thing that can help them take care of themselves. Because obviously cooking is not it for everybody. But if people can find the thing that can help them take care of themselves, that's what I really hope people walk away with. And also that like, you are not the things that you inherited necessarily, or that you are, and you can take those and create something new. I have like a line in one of my poems about like a bouquet of rotting things, and how that is what I felt like I was given in a lot of ways. And I hope people know that, or that people take away that they can take that like rotting bouquet and like also it can be turned into something, it's like hard because I hate using the word good and I hate using the word beautiful, but just something different, and something survivable, I guess. Yeah, I don't know, there's a lot there, but that's my convoluted thoughts.
No, but I think you nailed it. I think you did. All right, well, no one else has other questions. I got one more for you.
Cool.
And it's the most important, I think, of the night. And that is, why is CoStar so freaking ruthless? It is unbelievable. Okay. I needed that poem today, by the way, when I was rereading this book, because I woke up this morning, 7:03. I haven't even gotten out of bed, right? Okay. And these fools, they're like, the balance is off. You show up late, laugh loudly at the wrong thing, and forget people's names. And it's like, CoStar, I have ADHD. What do you want?
I have to be honest,
Oh.
I actually deleted a long time ago for this reason, because I was like, it's like CoStar's always giving me like, it's bad energy. I'm like, give me Channy Nichols instead. Like,
yes, tell me I'm gonna fall in love tomorrow, like a real horoscope would.
literally,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, CoStar is toxic.
It is. I did see a posting once to be a writer for CoStar, but like I don't have it in me to be that savage at all times. It is unbelievable.
I want to talk to those writers and I want to be like, what are you doing? Like, the planets are already like fucking us up. Like, we need some some different energy here. Which is why yeah, for any astrology people out there or people that are interested in astrology, Channy Nichols really makes me feel better. And yeah, the new moon tomorrow is wrecking me. So we're all in it together, and hopefully we can all find a horoscope that doesn't bully us.
And on that note, I think we can all agree that this was amazing. This was incredible reading, and we were definitely all here for this tonight.
I love that Devin's just eating right now. This is exactly
as you should. I think that's the only appropriate response, honestly, to this whole thing.
I made dinner during Sam's set.
I don't know how else you're supposed to interact with this work. I think that's pitch perfect.
I love that.
I do too. And honestly, I love that everybody came out tonight. Thank you so much for being here. You could have done anything on this Tuesday evening, and you're here celebrating an incredible author and this amazing collection of work, Until Tender, which you can order now at gameoverbooks.com or annoy your local bookstore or library about it. Get them the care. So yeah, thank you so much, Sam. Thank you so much to Devin Devine, everybody. That's it. That's our show. We did the thing.
Thank you, MJ. That was so lovely. And thank you, Josh, and everyone. And I'm just so grateful.
Good night.